Hello again. Right, here we are for chapter 5, part 2. I'm reading from pages 71 to 75, and the questions I'm going to ask you are here. So we're going to have a think about what clefts are and what that word means. We're going to infer why the children are going to so much trouble to get this tree, and retrieve why Callie hesitated to throw the bronze axe in 2 different ways. Okay, so again, like yesterday, we will stop as we go along and talk about them as we go. So, left you yesterday where they had found a tree that was trapped underneath inside a cave, and they were going to free the tree and take it back. So here we go. I found it. Only one branch is as thick as my arm is wedged between the 2 rocks. This is what's holding the tree. How will you get it loose? Brocken asked. Shall I come in the water and beside you to help? No, you stay where you are. You and Kelly tug gently at the branches. I'm going to cut off the branch that is wedged. It took Tenko a number of shallow dives and blows with his axe before the branch was severed. The tree responded at once by rising higher on the surface of the water. Kelly and Brocker grabbed it to prevent it floating away down the cave. Tenko emerged from the water, clutching his axe. He climbed up onto the ledge beside them. Now to haul it down the cave to the gully mouth, he said. Whatever happens, we must not let the tide take it from us. How can we get it? Callie asked. If we lean over the rock and pull it, we shall overbalance. Yes, that is true. Tenko considered for a moment. The pull of the falling tide is strong. The tree will float down on the gully of itself, but might get wedged between another rock. It might even get swept out to sea, and then we shall lose it forever. There is nothing for it but for me to go into the water and hold it behind. Callie looked at Tenko fearfully. What if you get caught in the branches and drowned? Not I. I will hang on behind the tree and hold onto its torn roots. I can always let go if the tree is too much for me. How can we help then? Callie asked. I will go with the tree as far as the bend in the cave and try to lodge it against the rock there. That is quite near to where we left the boat. Can you and Brocken manage to roll the boat down into the water? Yes, we can do that. Then I'll swim in close and grab it. Try to keep up with me as I drift down the cave with the tree, but watch your step in the darkness. Hang on to the tree now till I get hold of its root. Callie, will you take care of my axe? Callie received the axe and laid it carefully beside her on the ledge. The 2 children held onto the tree by the branches which rose above the level of the path. Cautiously, Tenko let himself down into the water again. He grasped the broken off, trailing roots of the tree. Now let go, he shouted to the children. Give the tree a push away from the side. The tree began slowly bobbing along the water on its course down to the gully to the open sea. Tenko floated behind it, a grey shadow on the dark water. Callie picked up Tenko's axe and held it tightly to her. The children worked their way along the path, watching their footing and keeping alongside Tenko and the tree. Now and again the tree caught in a rock and Tenko had to dig it backwards and forwards. Once he had to call to Callie, hand me my axe. The tree has been wedged again. Callie knelt. I'm going to stop there actually because one of our first question is today, why do you think, a bit of an inference question, why do you think that these children are going to this much trouble? They've found a tree in a cave. They're in quite a dangerous place actually. We know that the waters around are quite rough, and so why is it that they're going to so much trouble? So just have a think for a moment. I think they're going to much trouble. They've not seen a tree before, and I think they've got it in their heads that when they get back to the camp with this tree, that everyone's going to be really impressed. I wonder if it were your parents, if you brought a tree back, would you be impressed? Would you be annoyed that your children put themselves in such danger? We shall see. I know which one I would be. So let's keep going then. Callie knelt on the edge of the rocky path and leaned forward as far as she dared without overbalancing. Tenko swam close into the rock and stretched out his hand to take the axe. The water had fallen lower than when they had entered the cave, and Tenko's reach was a foot too short. Drop the axe and I'll catch it, Tenko directed her. We'll stop again here. The next question I've asked you is explain why Callie hesitated to throw the axe down. We're looking for two different reasons. So this is where we're going to find it. So we'll have a talk at the end of this paragraph about why she hesitates. Drop the axe and I'll catch it, Tenko directed her. Callie hesitated. The sharp edge of the axe might wound Tenko's hand if he caught it by that. If the axe slipped his grasp, it might be lost in a deep hole in the gully forever. She knew what store Tenko set by his axe. Still clutching the axe tightly, she slipped over the ledge into the water beside Tenko. Well, Callie, why did you do that? Tenko cried. So have we picked up some of the reasons that she was hesitant? Number one, she didn't want to throw it down. I wouldn't want to catch an axe with my bare hands. It might wound him, and then they would be stuck in a cave trying to free a tree with an injured Tenko, who seems to be the one who knows what he's doing as well. Also, there's so much value placed on this axe that if it had dropped it, if she hadn't have thrown it down in the right position, they would have lost it forever. And it's really well known that this axe is quite valuable to Tenko. So there are our reasons. Okay. The last question I have for you is what a cleft. So we've talked about the word Tenko clefting the water in the previous part of this chapter. So we're going to come across the word again, but used in a different way. So off we go. Oh, Callie, why did you do that? Tenko cried. Here is your axe. She thrust it at him. It will need one of us to hold onto the tree when you release it with your axe, or it might float away too quickly. I could swim after it. You would be cumbered then by your axe, and I have only one hand free. No, there are two of us to hang onto the tree. She shouted up at Brocken. Will you be all right by yourself, Brocken? Yes, I'm all right. I'll make my way to the boat. Callie held on tightly to the tree root while Tenko swam round the tree to find the branch which had caught. It was difficult to locate in the darkness. At last he found it. It was a forked branch which had stuck in the cleft in the rocks. There we go. There's that word we're looking for. So when Tenko jumped into the water, we describe that as him parting it or splitting it. And so a cleft in a rock as a noun is a very similar thing. So it's parts of the rock that are split, have got holes in them, so that when you're rock climbing, you can put your fingers in and use them to grip on. So I know we all used them on camp when we were climbing the walls. So that's what clefts are, meaning to split. So it was a forked branch which had stuck in a cleft in the rocks. Luckily, it was a very slim branch, no thicker than Tenko's wrists. With a couple of blows, he severed it from the tree. At once, the tree began to move downstream again, but this time with Callie pulling backwards on its roots. Tenko took his place beside her, grasping another root with his free hand. Brocken shadowed them along the ledge. At last, they reached the place where the cave took a sharp bend. Here they could see the sky at the edge of the cave and the gully where the boat was lying on the ledge. On the point of the rock at the sharp bend, there were two other larger rocks lying out in the stream. Steer the tree over to those rocks, Tenko directed Callie. They got the tree lodged behind the rocks. The weight of the falling tide held the tree against them. It will be safe here, Tenko said. We can climb out now over the rocks to the ledge again and get to the boat. The seaweed-covered rocks were very slippery. Callie found it really hard to get a grip and pull herself over them. More than once she slipped and Tenko grabbed her. Then they came to a rock below the ledge. It was sheer on the side, facing the water. The top of it was beyond their reach. Hold on to the rock and I will see if it's easier lower down the gully. Can you keep my axe? I'm not sure if you can hear, but Jamie's having a bit of a tantrum in the background, so apologies if you can hear the crying. It's all right, Stuart's with him. The top was beyond their reach. Hold on to the rock and I will see if it's easier lower down in the gully. Can you keep my axe? Tenko climbed carefully down again. Callie held on to a tangle of seaweed and waited in the half-darkness. Then, handhold over handhold, his feet feeling for clefts in the rock, Tenko came up beside her again. No, the rocks are sheer above the water lower down, and gully... rocks are sheer above the water lower down the gully too. There is only one way to the ledge, Callie. We must go back to the tree. It was a nightmare journey over the slippery rocks, but Tenko took it slowly, steadying Callie now and again. Brocken called out to them, fear in his voice. Are you all right? What is wrong? We're coming, Brocken. We're finding a way up. Tenko tried to make his voice reassuring. They slipped down into the water again. It felt colder than ever. They had to fight hard against the downward surge of the tide to reach the tree. They held onto it, panting to get their breath back. Tenko climbed up the half-submerged trunk till he reached the branches. Now he began to reach the tricky part of his climb. The branches were wet and slimy. One or two of them were rotten from submersion in the water. Tenko tested each branch with his hands before he trusted his weight on it. Once there was an ominous cracking. Callie below cried out in fear. "It's all right, Callie. A small branch broke, but I grabbed another," Tenko called to her. At last he reached the stout branch that overhung the ledge of the rock. Like a monkey, he curled his arms and legs around it and then twisted his body till he was on the top of the branch. His training as a hunter had taught him how to climb trees. He crawled along the branch till he was able to let his feet down on the ledge. "It's not difficult to reach the ledge, Callie. I'll come back and guide you up the tree," he called her. Callie still had Tenko's axe. He had forgotten all about it in his fight to reach the ledge. Callie would have only one hand free unless she left the precious axe behind. She made a quick decision. "No, Tenko, be quicker if you join Brocken and launch the boat, and then you can come and fetch me. I do not think I could climb over the branches as you did." "It might be better to fetch the boat," Tenko agreed. "Can you hang on to the tree?" "Yes," Callie replied, though her voice trembled a little. "Be as quick as you can go, though. It's cold in the water." Tenko rounded the bend and hurried along the widening ledge as fast as he dared go on that slippery surface towards Brocken and the boat. Callie got a grip of the tree trunk with her free hand and threw a leg astride it. She managed to pull herself onto the trunk. Little by little she edged her way along till she was free of the water. That was better. The bitter cold no longer surged about her. It was eerie, sitting in a cage with only glimmering of twilight around her. Every sound, the rushing of water, the snapping of twigs, echoed and re-echoed in the cave. There was always a strange murmuring. Callie tried to keep from thinking of the stories her tribe told her, of the spirits of the sea and the spirits of the cave, of the strange creatures that come out of the sea to grab their prey. She gripped the tree trunk, as petrified by terror as by cold. We'll stop there. That's the end of that second part of the chapter. So thank you for listening. I'll be back tomorrow to read the next part of chapter 5. In which we'll find out whether they can get this tree back to the island or not. Bye!